Welcome back to Beyond the Gate, our Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And today we're talking about episode 23, Girl on the Battlefield.
Yes. And in this episode, cooperation between Mustang's cabal and Ling Yao's band leads to the capture of a homunculus. Unfortunately, their actions also capture the eye of the homunculus hiding atop the military's ranks.
What's a cabal?
I think that's just like, let me go to the dictionary, but I think that's just like another word
A group?
or group. I'm pretty sure. Let me see.
They're very flowery with these introductions.
Yeah. Whoever wrote this one was feeling fancy. Okay. The first definition is, okay, I like it. The contrived schemes of a group of persons secretly united in a plot as to overturn a government.
Ooh, so it's very specific. I like that. Okay. But anyway, sorry, I really had to ask. But this episode covers manga chapter 47, A Girl in the Grip of Battles Past and Present, and chapter 48, A Promise Made by Those Who Wait.
Let's just jump right in. We don't have anything extra to talk about this week. So episode starts very, very exciting. There's a big explosion, and we see Ling jump out the window with Lanfan. Gluttony and the Fuhrer are following, decide to go after them. They want to take them down because I assume, well, one, because they're just annoying, but also now they know that the Fuhrer is a homunculi, or they suspect that he is. Ed is with Winry still, and it's super. I think it's cute. He's put his coat on her and still comforting her, but then he has to get back and help Al, so he tells the MPs to keep her safe and he runs off. And then we cut to I know, it's really sad. She's like, "You're leaving me again." And then we cut to Mustang and Hawkeye, and they're still listening to everything that's going on, and Mustang says it's time to go help them. And so he sends Hawkeye to back them up, and tells her that they're going to meet in a vacant house outside of town. And Hawkeye puts on a disguise. Honestly, it's like,
well, she hasn't put it on yet, but she grabs the things to put on.
The disguise.
Yeah.
It's not the most impressive disguise in my opinion, but I think it does the trick. And it's funny because so she puts on like a lab coat, and then also she puts on glasses. And in the manga, it just briefly mentions that they're Fury's glasses. She's like, "Oh, he left his spare glasses here. I'm just gonna put them on. Let's borrow them." But as she's leaving, she tells Mustang very sternly not to enter the fight, and he's like, "Okay."
I know. It's cute though. He's got a smile on his face when she's like berating him. He's like, "Okay, fine."
Yeah. It's like, "Okay, I get it." It's kind of like, "All right, Mom, leave me alone." Then we go back to Gluttony and the Fuhrer chasing Ling, and while Ling is running from them, Lanfan wakes up and she figures out what's happening and realizes that her arm is useless, and she is useless to Ling, and she tells him to leave her behind, but he kind of gives her the same speech that he gave the Fuhrer, and refuses to do that.
Yeah, and her arm, her left arm is it's the one the Fuhrer injured. It's just like dangling while Ling is carrying her, and I don't think she can move it either. And so she realizes that she can't fight, and she's too injured to help him.
And then we see Al and Scar fighting. Al is, I think he's holding his own. He makes another like very giant hand, and like, I don't know, I thought it was very cool. He tries to crush Scar with it.
Very good animation.
Yeah, I really loved watching this fight. And while they're fighting, Scar realizes that Al is empty, Well, okay. That just occurs to me that doesn't make sense because I thought
He
he
destroyed his
destroys.
armor before.
Yeah, he did. But
Uh,
in, yeah, so I guess I realized in the anime, they make it sound like he's just realizing this because he's like, um,
your
oh,
armor is
I see that
hollow,
you're armored.
aren't you?
Yeah,
Or
hollow inside. But like in the manga, he says something slightly different that makes it sound like he did know already.
says
So
it
it
more
must just
like a
be
you're
a,
hollow in their like statement rather than it. It seems like it's worded like a
yeah,
question in the anime. That might not be what they intended, but it seems like he's figuring
yeah.
it out.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But yeah, maybe, yeah, that
I'd
might,
have to listen to him deliver the line again.
hmm maybe just a either a mistake or just a misinterpretation on our part. But and then once he says like, "Oh, you're empty," he's like, "How can you believe in alchemy or use alchemy when this is what alchemy has done to you?" And Al is, I don't know, I really like what he says. He's like, "To regret my body is to turn my back on alchemy and my brother who sacrificed himself to save me."
Yeah,
And while they're having this conversation, Ed comes to help. He like does like a flying kick, and at least in the manga, he's like, "Ah, I actually got him." Um,
nice.
and Ed tells Al that he made Winry cry again, and Al's like, "Brother, no, why'd you do that?" Um, I personally don't really think that it's his fault, but
No, but
um,
he made a slip and mentioned that Scar killed her parents, and that's what started the
yeah,
thing.
yeah, that's true. That's true. While they're fighting, Gluttony appears and he attacks Scar, and Scar like I think it destroys him with his or destroys his head at least with
He like grabs his head and his insides
yeah.
explode, so
Yeah, oh
blood
yeah, that's
oozes out of his eye sockets and his
oh yeah,
mouth
that was
and
really
ugh.
gross. Yeah. And then like it starts like cutting between um them fighting with Gluttony and the Fuhrer chasing after Ling, and Fuhrer's like, I got him, like there's nowhere to go. And then also Ed and I are like, where's Ling? Like he said he would help us. And we see the Fuhrer catch up to Ling, and we see Lanfan's arm. He's like, oh, I've got him. And then right at the same moment, Ling jumps out of the grate, where Ed and Al and Scar are fighting, and he throws a grenade inside Gluttony, and he's like, everybody get down. And Gluttony, like explodes. It's
That's
super
nasty.
funny. Yeah, it's funny in the manga, like the Gluttony's like, I think bottom teeth fall like in front of Ed, and he's
Yeah.
like, ooh, ew, gross. um, and then as Gluttony's body starts to reform, Ling is like, Ed, I need
Some
a
cable, some
some metal
strong
cable,
cable.
and he like as Gluttony's body is reforming, he ties him up, like then Gluttony's stuck,
Yeah,
and
because he's
honest,
regenerating and
yeah.
as he's regenerating and growing, the cable's stopping him from moving.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, that whole scene was like chef's
I
kiss.
mentioned
So
this in our
amazing.
okay, I mentioned this in our
Yeah,
bonus episode, the Crushes episode, but so when Ling pops out of the grate, he doesn't have his coat on like usual, so he's bare chested and he has his sword in his mouth. And I remember the first time we watched this, like we didn't have character crushes on anybody in the show. And I'm not saying I have a character crush on Ling, but when I saw him with that intense look and he opened his eyes and I was like, oh boy. Oh, whoa. I don't want to have a crush on this show, but oh man.
yeah, yeah. There was definitely a moment where I was like, wow, that was so impressive.
He became more than just the comic relief.
Yep, yeah. He's also like super strong. He's like
Yeah.
literally tying up Gluttony with the metal cable, and he's also smart too. As we kind of established in the last episode,
Yeah.
He's good at thinking, like during battle. Yeah. And then, so we saw Ling do this, and then we cut back to the Fuhrer, and he was tricked. We see Lan Fan's arm, but it is not connected to her body. It's kind of gross, but it's been tied to a dog.
That poor dog.
It's like, poor dog. And then we see Lan Fan in the sewers.
She cut her arm off herself with her
yeah,
knife.
that was like that's just so hardcore. Yeah. And the Fuhrer is like, well played.
That seemed like a clean cut too. Like I didn't see any bone jutting out.
That would be so hard to do on yourself.
Get the right angle. Okay, we're not gonna get into that.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't know if it'd be possible to do such a clean cut on yourself. Anyway, after Gluttony's been captured, Hawkeye arrives, and well, this a stranger disguise, this blonde woman in a lab coat and glasses arrives. Very obviously Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
And she shoots Scar in the leg, and Ling throws Gluttony in the car and hops in, and Ed and Al don't go with them. But they realize right away who she is. And she tells them not to say anything because the MPs are like right there.
Yeah, and then stay behind so that they can fight Scar some more.
Yep. And so they start to do that, but then May arrives. She kicks Ed and Al, totally surprising them. And she sees that she and Scar are outnumbered, and she throws her. They're not. I don't know, like knives, I guess. Oh yeah, they might be. They look
similar to what Lan Fan had.
Yeah. And then she uses her alchemy to like cause an explosion, and they're able to escape.
Also, how many knives does she have? Because like each time she does alchemy, she throws the knives a fair distance away. I don't think she goes and collects them after each use.
I don't know. They look pretty thin, so she can probably carry a lot of them, I would guess.
Maybe that's why she wears like that baggy scarf kind of thing on her clothes.
Yeah.
Anyway. And there's a funny moment in the manga after May rescues Scar. She's like, to Ed and Al, "What do you think you're doing to the man who saved my life, you tiny little man?" And Ed screams back, "What did you say, you tiny little girl?" I love it.
Sorry. Yeah. Yes, it was funny. And there's like a similar moment like that in the anime.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Ling and Hawkeye, they're driving away. And Ling is like, "Oh, I gotta go back and get my friend. She's really injured." And at first Hawkeye says no, but then she's secretly a softie, and she gives in, and they go to get Lan Fan.
I think she can hear the desperation in his voice. He's like, "I left my friend there. I promised her I'd go get her. She could be dying, please." And Hawkeye, she does not have a heart of stone. She, of course, turns around.
Yes. And the Fuhrer sees them, and he recognizes Hawkeye, and he's kind of annoyed by Mustang. He calls him, he's like, "Oh, that upstart." So, not good for Mustang.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, May is healing Scar.
Using alchemy again. More knives. But in the manga, she actually explains a little bit how her alchemy works. So, I know we've gotten the basic rundown, and she said before a little bit about it, but she's talking specifically about healing in this part of the manga, and she explains that she can't repair a certain area where the flow of power has stopped, which means like she can't grow a limb back that's been lost and things like that. So there is a limit to what her powers can do.
Yep. And while she's doing that, Scar is remembering Winry's face as she's pointing the gun at him, and he's like, "Is that what my face looks like every time I kill someone or go after people, after the alchemists?" And he starts to realize that it's true, that hatred only breeds more hatred, and there might never be an end to this cycle.
Hey,
He
Winry
doesn't save it.
was important. Like this, to change Scar's attitude is a big deal, and
Mm-hmm.
I know there's something she said in this episode where she's like, "Why is the only thing I can do wait? Like, why am I always waiting?" Like, oh, you're doing stuff, Winry. You don't realize it though. You're making an impact.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Honestly, she's just like a solid rock in this show because like there's been other episodes where and now have really been down or struggling and she talks to them and
Yeah.
inspires them to keep going and they also inspire her to keep going.
Right. It's
It's
the cycle of love.
yes.
But also, yeah, it's also to the point that you don't have to be always active in a story to be important to it.
Yeah, that's true. You also don't have to like, have be an alchemist and be a super strong fighter. Like you can still be awesome without those
Mhm.
skills. Anyways, May can't find Xiao Mei. Like where'd she go? And then we see that Ed and Al have her panda. Um, and of course it was Al who rescued her from the battle. And Ed is like totally fed up. Like, we don't have time for this. Like, you gotta get rid of that thing. Like first stray cats and now this and Al's like, oh, but it's so cute and I had to save it.
How
Um
many animals can you fit into that armor?
yeah.
Yeah. And so Xiaomei, she's so cute, but like when I was like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you," she bites his finger, and he's just so happy, like, "Oh, it's all right. You're safe now." And it doesn't hurt him, obviously. So Xiaomei and the manga and the anime, she realizes that Al's at the top of the food chain, but I think the graphic.
Top of the list of the people that she loves.
No, top of the
Alright.
food chain. Like she can't defeat him.
Oh, I see. Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
So in the manga the food chain is represented by like a food pyramid. So Al's at the top, and the next level down is her and May, and then the level after that is Scar, and then comes like amoebas, and at the very bottom is Ed and Yoki.
Doesn't have a high opinion of Ed.
No.
I mean, she does like bite him, and then he's like, "Ow!" Like,
Yeah.
get away from me, you know. But
But yeah, so Al's got a new little friend, and he puts her in his armor to keep her safe.
yep,
But
it's
he
very
just
cute.
drops her in there. What does she do? Like sink to the bottom of his foot?
Probably. Or
That's a
unless
long
there's
drop.
like
He's
there
like
might be
7 feet
like
tall.
that's true. There might be like a part of his armor where she can just snuggle in.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. Ed and Al are on their way to see Winry. And she is with the Fuhrer. There, I guess we'll bring this up now since I wrote it down. But there's like they're having tea or coffee, and there's like their cups are like normal size, but then like right next to the Fuhrer's cup, there's like the tiniest little like
It's like a creamer cup.
yeah,
But
it's like the tiniest thing ever. And it's like, what, how, like, what is the purpose of that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I think the meme is like,
what is that? That's Ed's cup, you idiot.
yeah, we'll share it on our Instagram, but it's just super funny. And I was like, why does he have that? And I think you said that in the manga it's not there, right?
It's not in the manga, no. They just added it in the anime. Just for
They're like,
giggles.
they need creamer. And then they're like, they don't need that much though, so make a tiny cup, I guess.
To be fair, that's what creamer cups are, like that tiny, except they come with tea sets, and they look a little fancier than that. And you don't use them for gigantic mugs, you use them for delicate teacups.
Yeah, that's true. But when Ed and Al arrive, the Fuhrer leaves, and he calls Winry their honest friend, which has Ed concerned. Like what did she say to him? But I don't think they even ask. But in the manga, they do, and she's like, oh, just about our childhood, or like we just chatted about stuff, like normal stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then Ed tells Winry what happened to her parents, and as they're heading back to the hotel, she says she's just thinking like that same thing again, like waiting is all I can do. It's in the manga she says waiting is hard and scary, which I don't know, I like that better, and
I agree
as
with
a
both.
yeah, and as a person who likes to just fix things rather than wait, like
Same.
totally agree. Like waiting is hard, and it's a skill. Honestly, I feel like it's a kind of a skill that you have to learn.
Yeah.
It doesn't come naturally.
Patience does not come naturally to me. I know
No,
that for sure.
no. Anyways, they arrive at the hotel, and as they get there, there's a phone call for Winry, and it's so sweet. Like everyone wants Winry back in Rush Valley. They're like, "When are you coming back? Like we need you to fix our auto mail."
Um,
Um,
in the anime, she says, "I'll be home soon." That was really
mhm,
nice. But also in the manga, I mean, I'm a little disappointed this isn't in the anime, but they just didn't have time. Um, but Winry's feelings in the manga are juxtaposed with Havoc. So he's still recovering in the hospital, but he's trying to stay strong so he can catch up to his comrades. And he and Winry both say a line like in unison at different times, it's but everyone's waiting for me, so with everyone's help, I'll pull through. And those are two characters I wouldn't think would be compared to each other, but I'm so glad they were.
mhm. Yeah, I like that too in the manga. Winry leaves for Rush Valley. Ed and Al are saying goodbye to her at the train station, and it's a very sweet goodbye. She tells them no dying, and Ed also makes a promise to her that he's not gonna, the next time she cries, he makes her cry, it'll be tears of joy. And as the train pulls away, she starts having flashbacks of like Ed, and she realizes that she's been falling for him, which we were like, me and Megan, I feel like when the first time we watched it, at this point we were like, duh. But
But it
we're
was
also
also one of
like,
those,
yes,
yeah.
she's realizing it.
It's also
Yeah.
a more gradual, you know, realization to her,
Mm,
which, some shows just push it like too fast. And it's
yeah.
also nice because she actually says it, like she actually acknowledges it in her head. And a lot of times the audience is left to be like, will they, won't they? Like,
Hmm.
oh, please, we already know she likes him.
Yeah. It's also, this scene is also kind of funny too, because as Ed in the manga, after Ed makes his big declaration, um Al is like, "Oh, that's so sweet." And then you see Ed like kick him.
Yeah.
Um
So if
and
you're wondering
that's
what that conversation was in the anime, there you go, because
yep.
they don't voice over it. You just see them like shoving each other a little bit as they walk away.
Yeah, yep. It's very cute. The whole thing is adorable. It's just adorable.
Mhm.
Um, then we go back. We go back to the more serious stuff. Mustang. He goes to visit Dr. Knox, who is the coroner that looked at, or that identified Maria Ross, and he asks him for help with Lanfan. He agrees. Kind of actually really sad. Kind of a sad moment because he's like, "Oh, I understand. Like if you don't want to come help because you have a family and stuff." And he's like, "My wife divorced me." And so he's like, "I can go." It's like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. And he also said it happened like right after Ishbal, which leads me, well, not leads me to believe, it hints that like Ishbal is I don't know, it caused a lot of problems, like
Just politically
not
and
just politically, but like just like in relationships between people. Because like I just think hearing him say that just makes me wonder, like, was it because of Ishbal? Like, I would guess that there was a lot of people who didn't agree with what the military was doing.
Or is it because he was changed after the war? Because
That
people
too.
come back with
That also.
PTSD and things.
So it's just sad. Like it has consequences, not just politically, but just individually.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always think about that stuff. Anyway, he agrees to help, and they go to the abandoned building that Mustang was talking about earlier, and he takes care she takes care of Lan Fan, and it looks very painful. She's very clearly in pain, and Ling is like outside listening to it, and I think he's having a rough time.
Yeah.
It's just sad, like, because I'm sure he feels like it's my fault, and he wasn't, and he says like, Ed's like, are you okay? Like, I'm sorry. And he's like, this is, I was expecting to make sacrifices when I got here, but I wasn't prepared for this. He was ready to make sacrifices for him
Personally, yeah,
personally, but not
not for his friends. He didn't
mhm.
he didn't consider the collateral damage.
Yeah, yep. Which he is only 15, so.
Yeah.
And then Lan Fan, she wakes up, and I don't know, I like it because like everybody is like around her bed, like, oh, you're awake, you're all right. And Ed is super concerned for her. He's like, are you okay? And she tells him like, I'm useless now. And like, I need a new arm. And Ed knows an engineer. So
I love it. He holds up his arm, he's like, makes a fist, he's like, yeah, I know a great automail engineer.
yep. So Lan Fan's gonna get a automail arm.
Woohoo, automail. I mean, boo, she lost her arm, but yay, automail.
Yeah. And then after, I think it's Mustang Ling and Ednal and Dr. Knox, they're all looking at Gluttony and like discussing, what they're gonna do with them. And Ling tells them that the Führer was also there in the fight, and that he saw his eye under the patch, and it's an Ouroboros mark. And they're like, what? He's, homunculus? How can that be? Like, doesn't make sense because he has a kid. But then they find out that Salim is adopted.
Oh yeah, going backtrack a little though. The reason why like him having a kid is such a shocker for homunculi is they have no reproductive capabilities apparently. So they may look human, but they can't reproduce.
Yep. Yeah. And then everyone starts fighting over who gets Gluttony because Mustang wants to interrogate him and take his Philosopher's Stone to heal Jean, and then Ed and Al need him to get information about how to get their bodies back, and Ling wants to take him back to Xing to figure out this immortality thing. So everybody's like, no, I need him, you can't have him. But then Gluttony realizes that Mustang is there, and Mustang is less killer, and he gets very upset, and I don't know exactly what happens, but somehow he breaks free, and then we see like his stomach opening, and we see this eye thing in it, and then there is a huge explosion, and
Like an implosion.
Yeah,
Like a black hole kind of thing. Because everything disappears in like that big area. Like it just.
That's yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. I was just like picturing what Hawkeye is seeing, and it looks more like things are like shooting out rather than. Anyway, then the episode ends.
Boo! Cliffhanger.
So it's the episode, as I noted earlier, not earlier, when we were talking the other day, the episode starts and ends with like a big explosion.
What's that quote? The world's something started in a bang and ends in a whimper or something like that. Right. Yeah, so now that's done. We only have one voice actor note because I don't know, He's just like the only noteworthy one here, I guess. We'll
Mm,
save others for later, but it's Dr. Knox, and he is played by R. Bruce Elliott, who is Dot Pixis from Attack on Titan, Dr. Nako from One Piece, and Captain Ginyu from Dragon Ball. And I don't watch any of those shows yet, so maybe Attack on
yes.
Titan someday. I will never watch One Piece, I don't have that kind of time, and I will never watch Dragon Ball because there's too much screaming.
Mm, I do watch Attack on Titan.
And that
I enjoy
character
it a lot.
is important, you said.
Yes, he is. And I love that his first name is Dot. I had no idea.
His last name is Pixis, so not a very threatening name.
No, but he's a good dude.
Nice. So for name meaning, I don't think they ever give his first name ever, and I couldn't find it on the wiki, so we'll just go with his last name. Knox is from English origin, and it means from the small hill.
All right. One thing we wanted to talk about is Lan Fan's arm, because she says it's useless and then just like cuts it off to help them escape. And we were wondering if even if like they hadn't done that, like would it have needed to be amputated anyway? Because as Megan mentioned earlier, it looked pretty limp and like she might not have been able to use it anyway.
I think the
After.
nerves might have been severed, but man, it's really hard to say. Because, in the moment, if she couldn't use it, that doesn't necessarily mean that she
Mhm.
wouldn't ever have been able to use it with proper care given to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I think it makes her sacrifice a little bit more epic
If she would have been able to still use it.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll go with that because it does like I don't know. It adds to the shock factor. Like
Right, yep.
she did that. Um
Oh, another thing we had, Ed had a short rant. Who you calling the puny little boy? And that's the equivalent of the manga quote earlier, like, who you calling tiny little man, you tiny little girl.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we also have homunculi deaths, so Gluttony died twice. We'll add that to the tracking.
Mhm.
Animation expertise. Not much to say except wow. I'm always impressed, but Meg actually pointed this one out to me, and she just said, "Oh, this is really cool." But it's the point of view shot we get of from Long Fawn's point of view when she's being carried by Ling. It was pretty cool to see
Mhm.
the camera tracking along to her eye line.
Yeah. I liked that. And then also, actually, in that same scene, something that we wanted to talk about when Lan Fan is trying to convince Ling to leave her behind, she says, "Sometimes someone must be left behind for the greater good." And we just wanted to talk about that idea briefly. Megan, what do you think of that?
I think that type of thinking is correct. However, it can be flawed because while sometimes that may be the case, in other instances, if you just try to find the harder solution, the solution that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem like you can make it work, you can avoid leaving somebody behind. It's just a more difficult path to take.
Yeah, yeah. I would say I'm of the mind of you should do everything possible not to leave someone behind, even if it is harder. Like here, like they did do the harder thing. Lan Fan sacrificed her arm. And I think that was, even though that was also really tough, that was the right decision because she's still alive. And I think that if she would have died, like that would have crushed Ling. I don't know if he would have been able to
Yeah.
move on from that, especially without, oh my gosh, what's the other guy's name?
Who?
Fu, without Fu there, I think it would have
Yeah.
been even harder. And also, it just like, it always really annoys me when they don't choose the harder path. Like, the one thing that I always think of, we talked about this the other day when we were discussing this, but like in the first Captain America movie, when he like puts the plane in the water, like, and it's like it seems like there's like five other different options, and instead he's just like, no, I'm gonna die, and like Like even like the most simple thing he could have done was just like given his coordinates to them so they could have come rescued him. But
Yeah. Well,
whatever.
yeah.
That movie's like 10 years old and I'm still like salty about that.
We can analyze that later.
Yeah.
Listener
Anyway.
comments are appreciated.
Yes,
Yeah.
on that
The
totally
debate.
yeah, totally relevant to this story.
Kind of, yeah. But anyway, story elements analysis, just promises. Remember when characters make promises? Like Ed's promise to Winry in this one. Just I mean, I feel like if a story goes out of its way to specifically have a character make a promise, it's gonna come up later. And you have to remember and you have to pay attention.
All right. That's the end of the episode. Megan, what was your favorite line?
Mine came from Al when he was fighting Scar, and Scar asked him, like, how can you still believe in alchemy when it's done terrible things to you? And he said, true, there are plenty of things about this body that are inconvenient, but it's nothing I can't live with. I don't need pity from anyone, least of all from you. And the way he said from you, disdain in his voice, go Al.
I love when he gets sassy. It's
Sassy
awesome.
Al is the best Al.
Yep.
And what was your favorite line?
Mine was from Ed. It's when he makes his promise to Winry. He says, "Next time I make you cry, I hope there'll be tears of joy."
All right. So what was our moral of the episode?
Be willing to make sacrifices to achieve your goals.
Yes, but don't cut off your arm, please, dear listeners. Automail's cool, but you don't need it.
Yeah. It's not quite as Automail here isn't quite as advanced, so
Nope. Not yet.
Yep. And then who pushed the story forward in this episode?
Ling and Longfan did for capturing a homunculus and evading the Fuhrer, which was quite impressive. And then Hawkeye gets an honorable mention because she was the getaway driver.
Yes. All right.
And that's all we've got.
That's all, folks.
Copyrighted.
Oh no. Just cut it out. That's the end of the episode. We will be back next week with the episode 24. Follow us on Instagram at Full Metal Beyond the Gate to see our memes, and also DM us or email us with any questions or comments. And we will see you guys. We will be back next week.
All right, bye.
Bye.